They say some heroes do not wear capes, some do not speak, and some do not even walk on two legs. But when a little girl stopped breathing in her sleep, it was not the machines, the doctors, or even her mother who saved her life. It was a dog who had already saved her heart once before. And what he did that night, without a single command or cry for help, would leave everyone speechless and grateful beyond measure. Lily had come a long way. She had been through the darkest night a child could face and somehow found her way back to the light. Ever since the accident that left her in a wheelchair and took her father, she had struggled with fear, silence, and loss. But Shadow, the German shepherd once trained to run into disaster, had found her where no human could reach. And now, months later, their bond had only grown stronger. That evening had been just like any other. The house carried the soft hum of night. The wind whispered through the trees. Inside, Lily was curled beneath her warm blankets, a book resting loosely in her hand. Her hair fell over her eyes and her breath was slow and peaceful. Shadow lay at the foot of her bed, head resting on his paws, his eyes alert even as he looked relaxed. Claire, Lily's mother, had finally allowed herself a moment of peace. A mug of tea in her hands, she watched from the doorway with quiet gratitude. It felt like they were finally healing. The laughter had returned. The silence had lifted. Lily had even spoken to her therapist that week about returning to school. She was finding her voice again. Claire smiled as she turned off the hallway light. Everything was finally okay. But no one knew what was coming. No one knew how close they were to losing everything again. It began just after midnight. Claire was asleep, the kind of deep, grateful sleep that comes only after long exhaustion. The candle had burned out on its own. The house was still. Until suddenly, there was a sharp bark. Then another. Then frantic scratching at her bedroom door. Claire sat up, confused. Shadow never barked like that. Not indoors? Not unless something was wrong. She rushed to the door, her heart already racing. The barking stopped the moment she opened it, but Shadow was already running down the hallway. Claire followed, her bare feet cold against the wooden floor. As she turned the corner to Lily's room, she saw him shadow-pawing at the door, whining, his body tense with urgency. She opened the door quickly and froze. Lily lay motionless in bed. Her book had fallen to the floor. Her lips were pale. Her chest was still. Claire dropped to her knees beside the bed, panic flooding her senses. She touched her daughter's face. It was cold. No breath, no movement. Shadow whined louder, nuzzling Lily's arm, nudging her hand as if to bring her back. Claire grabbed her phone and dialed emergency services. Her voice trembled as she tried to explain. Then she began CPR, tears streaming down her face, her hands shaking with fear. Shadow remained by her side, steady and focused. As if he understood every beat of her panic, he refused to leave. He did not bark again. He simply stayed, as if guarding her soul from slipping away. The ambulance arrived within minutes, its sirens slicing through the quiet night. Paramedics stormed into the house, their voices calm but urgent. Claire stepped back, her hands stained with her daughter's fear, watching helplessly as they placed Lily on the floor and began working. Oxygen masks, defibrillator pads, pulse checks, orders being called out in clipped voices. One of them turned to Claire and asked gently, "How did you know? If you had waited even a few minutes more." Claire did not speak. She only looked at Shadow. He sat there, eyes wide and focused on Lily, ears twitching with every sound. The paramedic followed her gaze, then nodded slowly, understanding what words could not say. At the hospital, Lily was stabilized. The diagnosis was swift and terrifying. She had suffered a rare nocturnal seizure. It had stopped her breathing in her sleep. The doctor's voice was kind but honest. Another 5 minutes, and it might have been too late. Claire clutched Lily's hand, trembling with both fear and fragile gratitude. Shadow lay beside Lily's hospital bed, his head resting gently against her side. The nurses tried to move him, but Lily stirred each time they did. Her heart rate changed. Her breathing faltered, so they let him stay. He did not bark. He did not move. He simply watched her breathe. When Lily woke 2 days later, the first word she spoke was not "Mom." It was "Shadow." Her voice was hoarse, soft, but full of recognition. Claire broke into silent sobs, holding her hand over her mouth. In that one word, everything was said. She remembered. She knew. She was still here. Doctors were stunned. "Some dogs are trained for this," one said. "But not all respond." Not like that. He was not just alert. He was connected to her. Something deeper than training. They ran tests on Lily, adjusted her medication, and made plans for further observation. But the real healing had already begun long before the machines caught up. Back at home, the rhythm of life changed once again. Nights were different. Shadows felt longer, but Lily no longer slept alone. Shadow was always there, curled beside her bed, one paw sometimes resting lightly on her arm, just enough to let her know he was near, just enough to keep her grounded. Claire began to write again, journals, notes, letters she never sent. In one entry she wrote, "Shadow does not replace Evan, but he carries something of him. A spirit, a devotion, a silent promise to never leave her side. He protects her because he chooses to." Lily started drawing. One afternoon, she handed her mother a picture. In it, a girl lay sleeping in bed. A dog stood beside her, surrounded by stars. The caption, written in shaky but careful letters, said, "He watches me while I dream." Winter came gently that year, the first since the accident. Snow dusted the rooftops like powdered sugar. Lights twinkled on porches. Inside, the Harris home glowed softly, the scent of cinnamon drifting from the kitchen. But beneath it all, Claire still carried a quiet worry. Nighttime had become a source of fear. What if it happened again? What if Shadow missed it next time? But Shadow never missed a thing. Every night he circled Lily's room 3 times before lying down. Every night he kept one ear raised and his gaze fixed on her chest, watching for the rise and fall. And every morning he was there, tail thumping the moment her eyes opened. One night, Claire found herself standing in the hallway, watching through the crack in Lily's door. The lamp cast a golden hue across the blankets. Shadow's breathing matched Lily's like some silent, sacred rhythm. She did not enter. She did not want to disturb what felt holy. Lily began talking more, even joking. Her fear lessened with each passing night. "Shadow is better than any alarm," she would say with a giggle. "He can hear dreams." Claire smiled, her heart lighter, though still stitched with caution. Then came the therapy session that brought everything full circle. Lily sat beside her therapist, Shadow lying across her feet. The therapist leaned forward and asked gently, "Lily, why do you think you are not afraid at night anymore?" Lily looked down at Shadow, then back up, her eyes steady. "Because I know he will always wake me up, even when I cannot breathe, even when no one else knows." There was no dramatic music, no sudden applause, just a quiet silence filled with awe. Healing, Claire realized, does not always come from medicine. Sometimes it comes on 4 legs, with warm eyes and a steady presence. The days moved forward. Lily returned to school part-time. Shadow became a fixture in the hallways. The school made a special exception. He was not just a dog. He was family. And every child seemed to understand instinctively that he was there for something more than play. One chilly morning, a teacher stopped Claire in the parking lot. She looked emotional. "Lily spoke to the class today. She told them the story about the night she almost died and how Shadow saved her." Claire's hands shook as she reached for the steering wheel. She had not known Lily had shared it, but somehow it felt right. That evening, Claire tucked Lily into bed a little slower than usual. There was a hush in the house, not heavy, but full. Lily lay still beneath her covers, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Shadow sat beside her bed, his gaze fixed gently on her face. "Can I sleep with the door open tonight?" Lily asked softly. Claire paused, then nodded. "Of course." She kissed her daughter's forehead. brushed a lock of hair behind her ear, and whispered, "Good night, my brave girl." As she turned to leave, Lily called out one more time, "Mom?" Claire stopped in the doorway. "Thank you for letting Shadow stay. I think Daddy would have picked him too." Claire smiled through the burn in her throat. She whispered, "I know he would have." Downstairs, the house was quiet again, but it no longer felt fragile. It felt held by love, by memory, by the soft steps of a dog who chose to stay, chose to protect, chose to love without asking for anything in return. Some heroes work in daylight, wear uniforms, and receive medals. But some are silent protectors in the night, watching over the ones they love, ready to act when no one else can. Shadow had saved Lily's life not once but twice, and each time, without a single command, he reminded everyone that sometimes the strongest voice is the one that never speaks at all.